hop is what we doing. It's the new movement.
Welcome to This House Is Not For Sale, your podcast of conversations around African hip-hop. I am your host, Selorm Jay.
And I am his co-host, Hephzie.
So we're still in Berlin.
Yes, we're still in Berlin. I actually leave today. I leave tonight. But by the time people watch it, I'll be in London probably.
Yeah, I also leave on Thursday.
You also leave on Thursday, so you'll probably be in Paris.
Yeah, in Paris.
But yeah, we're still in Berlin. And we just wanted to talk to you guys about our experience in Germany, especially Berlin, what we've learned, what we've liked.
Yeah.
Who we've spoken to, that kind of stuff. So
yeah. And it's all around the hip hop conversation. So far, I think the first thing that hits us when we walk in Berlin is the amount of graffiti, the amount of street art in the city of Berlin, and
massively into graffiti.
Yes.
And I guess the first time I was in Berlin, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure whether I liked it because it just seemed like it was just everywhere. There was no space for anything else. Graffiti just covers everything, and not just graffiti, as in like, you know, those bold pieces or those like political statements, but name tagging, just in general. Yeah. Or like we went to a restaurant yesterday, and in the toilets there was just graffiti all over the stalls. Yeah. But I really like it. Like we had a whole day that was dedicated to graffiti.
Yeah. So I think that there are some aspects of it that is dope, but also I think for the first time I'm understanding what people would complain about in terms of vandalizing, because it seems like it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Sometimes
on buses, on like. But when we're coming back from doing our COVID test, because Berlin is really strict on COVID at the moment.
Yeah. So you have to do every day we do a COVID test.
Every day we're doing COVID test, and it's not just a COVID test where they just put it in your nose; they put it in the back of your throat. And they put it in both nostrils 5 times. So that's always fun. But when we're coming back from getting our COVID test, and there was just a white van parked on the road, and there was a guy in it, and on the van was graffiti on the van. Yeah. And I guess people have just accepted that this is the way young people or people in general, because a lot of the graffiti artists we saw yesterday were not young.
No, they're not young.
Which I thought was really interesting as well.
Yes.
Because whenever you see graffiti, the idea is that it's young rebellious kids who are doing this. So it was really interesting.
Yeah. And more so because in Ghana, I don't think we've been through that vandalizing period.
There's no tagging in Ghana.
No, not really. The only tagging I remember is in high school, and then we would tag with our pens and how do you call it, indelible ink.
Yeah, but it's like washable.
No, it's not.
It's not washable.
No, it's not.
It's there permanently.
Yeah. So we actually use those kind of permanent ink, and we tag on like our desk, the toilets, the bathroom. So that is that's the only existence of tagging I know of, but not like street tagging. Like, I mean, there are a few street tagging, but it's not in a vandalizing properties type of thing. But it looks so here.
Yeah, what I find really interesting about graffiti in Ghana, like maybe it's like a really small thing, or maybe it's dumb, but I really like, you know, when on wall, like I think it's like private property, when they write post no bill on the wall, it's like you're graffitiing. It's almost like going against the thing that you don't want. Like you don't want people to post things on the wall, but you are vandalizing your wall by writing the post no bill on there. So I always find that really funny, and I don't think they also understand that is graffiti.
Yes,
in some form.
Yeah, so there's some sort of graffiti. I mean, I think it's a stencil art. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah, we went to visit Urban Nation. Yeah, and Urban Nation is a museum dedicated to graffiti. So they just have graffiti exhibitions, and this particular one we went to see has been there for about 2 years. They say
about 2 years, and it's focused on a woman called Martha Cooper. She wasn't born in New York, but she documented the graffiti art scene in New York, and just from like the beginnings of it, and continued to do that for the rest of her life. And it's probably one of the richest exhibitions I've seen.
Right.
Because she literally, her first photograph was when she was 7 years old, and she's in her 80s now. I don't know. I just found like it was a lot of content. Like you do exhibitions. You've put up some of your own, and just the amount of content that she had and that she had shot for, and you know didn't only focus on graffiti. And I mean, we'll talk more about her graffiti work, but she did projects in Japan where she was photographing people who were tattooing, and there's a special way they tattoo in Japan, traditionally tattoo in Japan, and she just would photograph just life in general. She went to South Africa, Soweto, she went to Cameroon, she was really interested in how children play, but specifically how children make the things that they play with, which is very common in Ghana, but in the West is not common at all. Like we would play with like pen tops and the top of mineral bottles and stuff like that. And I guess she was really fascinated by that. But what was your experience of the exhibition?
So like you said, it was a lot of work, and I mean, if you look at when she started, I mean, it makes sense for that amount of work.
7 years old to 80.
Yes.
Like she's in her 80s.
Yeah. So it felt overwhelming, but at the same time, you it's something you want to go through. You want to go through each and every photo, and I think that's what I like about the exhibition. I think it was organized very well on the walls, that you like to spend time to go through each and every photos. So it's like an hour in a museum.
We spent about an hour.
And also what I realized is that I also document the hip hop scene in Accra. So sometimes I document some of the graffitis in Accra. And usually maybe I'll just photograph like a piece on a wall. But what I realized with her photography was that there was always a subject interacting with the piece on the wall, which made it very interesting. I think that it's also something to learn from her photography. Or like she does a lot of like juxtapositions with her pieces. So there was a photograph of a heavily graffiti train with two police officers standing there, where it was like, obviously at the time she was shooting, graffitiing was illegal, and we should check this. I'm not sure if it's still illegal on public transport in New York. We should check that. It might be.
And so it was interesting, like that juxtaposition of them being in there with that graffiti.
Yeah.
And then there was also like a shot of this like naked woman, and then like naked woman graffitied onto a train, and then inside the train, I think it was like people were sat down, like dressed in their office attire, going to work. It was just really interesting. That piece of work. I really liked it.
Yeah, I also really liked the fact that they exhibited some of the tools that she was using. Some of her tags, space that she's been invited to, and also things that people gave to her as gifts. That was a very interesting and
it was
nice exhibition.
It was. I mean, I think my favorite, the two elements that were my favorite was the reimaginations of her work, because I think it's nice to have made an impact on culture, but to have it then reversed, like she is the impact now. Like, obviously graffiti inspired her, but now she's the inspiration. Yes. That was really interesting, seeing how people were able to reimagine her work.
Exactly.
Was really, really interesting and really moving. Like she's really had an impact on our culture. And then the other thing I really like that I would like to do one day in some way is they also displayed her. So there's a cabinet, like
Yeah.
a display cabinet with like her awards.
Yeah. And their
her
tags.
journalist like
Yeah,
passes and stuff.
yeah.
And then in the next cabinet next to her awards were her like rejection emails.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Like it was the awards of like the certificates that she had gotten, her press passes, and then right next to it was like rejection emails.
Oh.
Like so there was one person that was like, we would never consider this image for our magazine, but maybe you could go back and get maybe a softer interaction between these two people.
Wow.
And I find that really interesting that it was, I noticed it because it was on my birthday. It was March 15, 1981 or something. And she was getting rejected, and then flash back to a couple of decades later.
Wow.
And she's having like a whole exhibition about her work featuring some of those photos.
I missed that.
And I think it's like, can you imagine like how many rejection emails we've gotten as yo-yo tinz or things that I've been doing personally that you're like, but I know what I'm doing is really dope.
Yeah.
And one day you're gonna know.
Yeah.
It's like that thing where I think Mensa once said like it's really annoying being ahead of, you know, when people are like, oh, you're ahead of your time, and they make it sound like it's a compliment, but it's really fucking frustrating because you're like, you can see it.
Yeah.
There's some people who can see it, but generally people are not getting it.
Yeah.
So it's just, I found that really interesting and really heartwarming, and it encouraged me about what we're doing. Yeah.
I'm not surprised I missed that at all, because I'm always running away from text.
Any amount you have to read.
Any text I have to read, I'm out. You know, so I'm just always focusing on images. Text, text is like a whole. Yeah.
I think we're opposites in that way.
I get dizzy
when the text, and then
when I see a lot of text, I just get dizzy. So I'm not surprised I missed that. I'm sure I saw it, but I was like, I'm not reading this shit.
Next.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been fun, and we were also fortunate to have had a very casual conversation with
one of the curators.
Of
Can we say Michelle?
Yeah,
Can
Michelle.
We say her name?
Yeah, Michelle.
That was really interesting. Just,
I mean, we had random conversations.
It wasn't all specifically on graffiti and that. Like, she was originally from London. She's moved to Berlin now. It's just really interesting hearing her perspective on art. Yeah. And art making you question things instead of preaching to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's what I got from the conversation. Her whole thing about having conversations rather than convincing.
Yes.
People, and most of the times when we think we're having conversations, we are not having conversations. We are trying to convince people. But can we just have a conversation?
Open conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't
you
matter.
go into a conversation not holding on to your own beliefs and like wanting to make a point, but being open to having your mind change. Exactly. And I think sometimes we go into conversations being like, no, this is my stance, or you're not listening, you're just waiting for a moment to just jump in and say exactly what you think. So I thought that was really interesting, and just the idea that conversations can continue, and as a human being, it is okay to hold two very different opinions in one person. Yeah. So which reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend recently. And I mean, we just reconnected, and the whole conversation was, so she asked me about if I'm still not religious. I'm not religious, so if I'm still not religious, I said yeah, and she made mention of the fact that am I still rolling with this? So I was like, yeah, but what has that got to do with religion?
Yeah, but it's the same clique. This person's the one promoting. I said, but why does it have to be a conversation of promotion? Yeah. Why can't it be that, okay, I feel this way. Yeah. So that's why, and because I'm not coming at you like you are wrong. No, I say I'm not. Yeah. So if you are, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, we're really good friends. You're not Christian. I'm super Christian. Exactly. But we've never like clash or anything like that.
And the kind of conversations we have, I will say we are both Christians and we are both
like we have
we
we
are
agree with each other.
yes.
like
So when you take that tag out, we are both non-religious
Yeah.
and we are both religious
Religious, yeah.
because we have the same kind of ideologies.
Yes,
we
yes.
want the same kind of goodness in people. You know, the fact that you practice a certain way and I practice in a different way doesn't mean that I don't know, like
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no differences.
Yes.
I think as a Christian, the one thing because it's such a firm belief, and it's something that you really believe could transform people's lives. There's a tendency to want to preach to people, but I think you just allow everybody to be who they are, and then you always hope that your friends will come to a certain realization and want that relationship with God. But it's not about trying to convince somebody.
Exactly.
Because I can never talk you into becoming a Christian. Nobody talked me into becoming a Christian. It was my personal experience that nobody could talk me out of. Because if it was you talked me into something, you can also talk me out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So that person has to have their own personal thing, and it shouldn't be something that blocks a friendship or blocks a conversation or blocks.
So for me, it's like I feel like when it comes to like religion and saying I'm convincing somebody, no, I feel like most of the time we don't actually convince people. We actually talk to people that already have some sort of orientation around Christianity, and they sort of are willing to be a part of Christianity. So maybe when they are slacking on practicing and you talk to them, you preach to them, then
they feel
fall,
that.
But then have you tried to convince a non-believer?
No.
And go for like boot for boot.
No, because you can't. Even the Bible says that you can't. You could talk to somebody about it, but it's not you who's convincing them. You hope that they will have a spiritual awakening of some sort.
Exactly. So there's no need to be some type of way when you're unable to get somebody to reason the way you reason.
Or be hostile about it, because that does the opposite.
Because it's like telling a drug dealer, a drug addict, you need to go for rehab. If the person
doesn't come to their own realization there's nothing you can say that will.
Exactly.
It's very true.
So we just sometimes have to allow people to be. If the person's a bad person, come on, in your community, people who are evil.
Yes, that's the one issue.
But they have the whole religious practice under their belt. In my community, there are people who are evil. Human being. So can we have conversations? Can we all say this doesn't feel right? Because I don't know what's right and wrong, but maybe this doesn't feel right. Based on how we decided to live in our community. It's the
idea about conversation is very interesting.
Which brings us back to street art. I think most of the time when artists put pieces on the walls, I think everybody takes home their own understanding of what it is.
That's the beauty of art.
That's the beauty of art.
Michelle also said something very interesting. Is there is what the artist wanted to do. There is what the person takes from the art, and then there is what the artist is doing. Because sometimes your agenda for that art piece is not what's seen, or it's not what comes out, and it's not what the person takes. So I find that very interesting. Like, there's actually, I've never thought about it, and I've seen a lot of art shows and exhibitions and stuff, and it's true. Sometimes what you get is not what the audience.
I've experienced that.
And sometimes even I've heard artists say, like, I don't want to tell you why I wrote
Yeah.
that song
Yeah.
because you're going to get something from it that
Yeah.
I didn't intend, and that's is okay too.
Yeah.
So it's that conversation was very interesting,
Yeah.
and we are hoping that at some point we'll be able to get her on the podcast,
Yeah.
to be able to have more of that conversation. But even if we don't, I found that conversation, and we talked for hours. Like I just found that conversation very fruitful, and rewarding. Rewarding? Maybe rewarding is not the word, but it just made me feel like good.
Yeah. And I think from now we will look at street arts differently, and also we will see how best we can use that kind of inspiration we have here. We can sense the kind of inspiration we have here back home.
Let's talk more about because there's more in the day. We didn't just finish. So we had that conversation with her. Then we went to Mara Park.
Oh shit!
Our day was much longer than that. We had a whole day dedicated to graffiti. We went to Moa Park, which is a famous park because Moa means wall.
Yeah, we found out yesterday.
In German, which we found out yesterday. And so it's the park where parts of the Berlin Wall was, and it's like a street market. People come, put up a stall and sell. There's lots of art, lots of clothing, music, jewelry, people were busking, like making music on the spot. People were enjoying the sun because the sun was out yesterday, so there's a lot of people laid out in the park. But just up the hill from the like flea market type situation is like a wall that just dedicated to graffiti.
It's a long wall,
very long wall. And I don't know how they decide who works on which part of the wall, and at what point that piece gets covered up and somebody else gets to create art. But it was so beautiful seeing all these people create things that are very different. So you move from one section of the wall, the other section is totally different. Being able to see artists do their work live was also really interesting. And yeah, like I saw a lot more men than women, which I found interesting. I think we saw one woman doing something like abstract. And also the age demographic of the people doing the pieces was a lot older than I thought. I would say mid to late 30s, even maybe older. 40s. Some 40s.
Only 50s?
Yeah, there are a lot of older people creating pieces, but the people who were consuming it, so the people, I noticed that the age group of those people who were standing around listening to music, consuming the art, were young. They were like our age, like 30s, maybe younger. So yeah, it was just really interesting getting to experience that and seeing some pieces get made live. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. And and I feel like I wish we had something like that back home, because I think it's not the first, but I think in France as well, there's this whole world that is dedicated to graffiti artists. So they come there every time to change the piece, and I think it's nice, it's dope, to know that, okay, if I want to see graffiti. So there's this guy that we met there, forgot, Esther will know the name, but she's not here.
The guy who was doing the live painting in the dreads.
Yeah, so apparently every Sunday he changes a piece or something like that.
His name was called M.A. Freethinker. I
think so.
M.A. Freethinker, that was his Instagram anyway. I don't know what his actual name was.
So to change a piece like every Sunday. That's pretty tasking. Like, and his pieces especially are bold, bright. The one that I was really moved by was the piece that he had already done, but was working on another. Was like two women, looked like Afro Latina, like with the paints on their face, and it says that our history was made with blood. I thought that was really, it was like, like it really gets to you straight on. So some of these graffiti artworks have some powerful messages. This morning we read one that we thought was, after taking the test,
Yes, there was. It was. It said
something about when I'm falling.
No, it says if you're standing.
If you're standing.
If you're still standing, remember those that have fallen, or be there for those that have fallen. Something like that.
Yeah.
And again, like really like moving. I feel like those kind of street art is very emotional and immediate, and
it depends on how you look at it though. If you should take your time to reflect on the messages, it will not just be like my Ghanaian people say, oh, some art, this, some art. No, it's not just some art. You know, there's always a message. There's always a reason why somebody will take their time to put up, a piece. You know, so sometimes it's just like so. I don't see anything different from our taxis and churches back home. You know, all those
with
writings.
The writings on the back of them. Yeah.
Sometimes some of those messages hit you. You know,
bro.
and they sort you out for the day. Sometimes you're feeling down, and then they just motivate you. So I mean, the street art also kind of serve this kind of purpose as well. You know, and it's been beautiful with graffiti in Berlin.
It has.
And I don't know if it's safe to say that Berlin is like the official graffiti city.
Yeah, I think
it could be.
I think it could be. I mean, there's New York, but like I think we can say that because literally everywhere you can't walk 2 meters and not see a bit of graffiti in some kind of way. So
it could be.
I think it could be. It's definitely.
I haven't been to New York before, but
I have.
Could anything be more crazier than this?
I mean, I have. I went like 7 years ago, and you don't. It's not as
you're right.
Like it's not like this.
Right.
Even to the point where you're like, why is nobody doing anything about this?
Like too much.
It's like too much, but it's. I guess that's the beauty of the city, and I guess the people in Berlin have a lot to get off their chest. So no, it was good, and I guess maybe it's inspiring some ideas of some things that you want to do. So I mean, we've been very quiet in terms of like the Yo-Yo Tinz Festival and some of our activities since COVID, and we are, trying to see how to get back. It's not easy to get back after a long, should I say hiatus? Yeah. Especially, the finance too. You need to come back good, So and organizing a festival is like, not easy, and we're in a time where most sponsors don't really have the budget that maybe they have the budget, but maybe you're not the priority now. It's almost like they want to see it blow up before they can be
so
a part of it.
But we have some few ideas each year for our hip hop festival. We try to focus on all the elements of hip hop. And the way we do that is that each year we make one of the elements like the main subject of the festival. So before we shut down because of COVID, dance was the main focus, So now to get back, we are thinking that probably graffiti could be the focus for the next Yo-Yo Tinz Festival, and so seeing all these graffiti spaces on the museum, it's really
gives you some ideas.
It's inspiring, and also some of these things gives a clearer picture of what you are thinking about, because sometimes you have an idea but you're not too sure of how it's gonna look. But when you see stuff like this, then it gives you that possibility in your head, like okay,
this is possible.
I mean, it makes sense. Like I think I'm on the right path, So I mean, and that's the vibe we've been getting here. So it's been exciting. It's been great. I'm glad I came.
I'm really glad I came. I'm glad I came, even though I didn't know that you were coming. But
so apparently somebody deliberately planned that.
somebody wanted it to be a surprise.
That we both don't know we are here. Yeah.
But it was great, and I'm glad that we got to take this trip because I feel really inspired for the next phase.
Yeah. So so that has been our Berlin trip, and so this is how do you call it? What episode is this? Come on.
The episode that I came on was the 3rd episode, right? Because you had done 2 before me. And then we've done 1, 2, 3. I think this may be the 5th episode.
No, it's not.
We should know this. This is embarrassing.
No. So it was 3 episodes before you came on.
Okay, so the one I came on was
4th,
4.
and then Mensa 5th.
I think it was Kojo Q.
Kojo was 4th.
Oh, because that was the one I was on.
Kojo was 4th, Mensa 5th, and then when we met in Accra,
6th. So this is the 7th. 8th, because there's a one before you see this one.
Yeah. So this has been the 8th episode of This House Is Not For Sale. I am your host, Selorm Jay.
And I am his co-host, Hephzie.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe, share,
like,
tell
everybody about this podcast.
Yeah, if you love it, introduce somebody to the podcast. Let us grow together. Let's be a big family. Peace.
Hip hop is what we do.